people hate soccer. What is the matter with them?
Well, it's just astounding, Scott. I don't know. It's like a nightmare you see unfolding, but I
dream about it. I admit it. I do. It is a nightmare. That's exactly what it is.
It's a discussion perhaps for another time, but I think it has to come back to the absolute bankruptcy of the American educational system.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying earlier in the show. Everybody's so stupid because they don't know anything, really, to ground their feet in so that when new information comes, they can bounce it off and see whether it makes sense or not. They're like floating in space.
Yeah.
And it's exactly because of the public schools in this country.
I think that's right. I remember after we invaded Iraq, just before I resigned, the Bush administration was looking around for help to occupy Baghdad. So they settled on two countries, India, with a reputation of ruthlessly killing innocent Muslims in Kashmir, and the Mongols, the Mongolians, who, of course, in Islamic history are the Hitler of Islamic history in terms of the number of Muslims they killed. Fortunately, the Indians and the Mongolians said thanks but no thanks. But we were so stupid, so ignorant of history, that we considered we did ask those people to send military forces to Baghdad.
Amazing. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
It is amazing.
Well, and look, here's amazing, too. They say, literally in one breath, the war's over, we're leaving 50,000 infantrymen and uncounted tens of thousands of mercenaries in the country, along with air power and bases, and we insist on renegotiating the exit agreement, and we're staying past 2011, read it in McClatchy newspapers by Warren Strobel, and the war's over all at the same time. It's all one big paragraph.
And also, I don't know if you I'm sure you did catch it, but also it was clear that cultural imperialism and intervention was coming. When the president talked about these thousands of American diplomats and health workers and everyone else who was going to be deployed to Iraq to teach them how to be other than Muslims, I guess we want to have them look like Lady Gaga and be enthusiastic about abortion and all of those kind of things. But there was Obama the imperialist at his most dreadful, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that brings up, who we turned the country over to, and that is Sistani and Sadr. And no, women's rights is not taking an advancement, and cultural imperialism isn't going to accomplish a darn thing. We just undid every bit of what I guess you could call modern Western progress in that society, which was the most like the West of all the Arab states, other than Jordan maybe, I guess, which I've never been to either of them. But as far as, women being able to teach college in blue jeans, that doesn't happen all over the Middle East, but that's how it used to be in Baghdad before that war. And
yeah. I'm one that thinks that I don't want to send anybody across the ocean to teach anybody anything. To how to be like us. I think it's self-defeating. I don't think it's worthwhile, and I think it causes wars. But I'll tell you the worst thing about the Iraq War is as long as Saddam was in power, he was the cork in the neck of the bottle. Those people who were fighting us in South Asia were staying in South Asia. They couldn't get to the Levant, to Syria, to Jordan, to Gaza, to Lebanon. They couldn't get to Turkey. Now they're all there. We created a highway right across Iraq into the mainstream of the Middle East. And I think history will show that Saddam was the best kind of ally. He was murderous, but we didn't need to pay him because he was going to do it anyway.
Right. Well, and he was more or less secular fascist of the Sunni tribes there. So if there was to be, Al-Qaeda radicalism type influence anywhere, it would have been in Anbar province or in Tikrit or wherever, where he had the most influence and the most incentive to not let that last one day. That's why Zarqawi was hiding out in American Kurdistan in the run-up to the war, Mike. And that's why George Bush told the military no 10 times when they were, maybe it was 7. Jim Miklaszewski did the thing for NBC, and there was a bunch more too, where they wanted to go into Kurdistan where they had free reign and kill Zarqawi before the war. And Bush wouldn't let him because they needed Colin Powell to be able to say that Zarqawi had a fake leg that Saddam gave him and was the link between Osama and Saddam for their war propaganda.
Well, I just happened to know it because I worked on it for about 2 years. We knew basically for a year, almost every day, where al-Zarqawi was in northern Iraq, what camp he was in, what building he lived in. And that information went to the White House every day until they finally said, we don't care. But it wouldn't even take, it would take no boots on the ground.
When did they say that? When did they say that? Approximately what month, what year, what are we talking about?
Well, they finally said, we're sick of hearing this, probably December 02, January 03.
Mm-hmm.
What they kept
right before the Powell speech.
Well, what they kept telling the intelligence community was they were still trying to wine and dine the French and the Germans into going to Iraq with them, and they were afraid if we killed Zarqawi with an airstrike, they would think we were cowboys and they wouldn't go. And now, Scott, we're in the insane position of Zarqawi, in the short time he was active, probably is responsible for killing more American service personnel than Saddam's army was in 2 wars.
And, you know, he didn't even declare himself al-Qaeda in Iraq until the end of, like, the last day of December 2004.
Yeah.
Man. All right. Well, so, okay, we got to wrap this up, but let me try to ask you something smart here to do it. I'm the president. You're my national security advisor. I'm sorry, dude. Your opinions matter a lot, but still, you work for me. And here are your 2 choices for our policy, right? Here's your orders. We're calling off the whole thing. We're ending the occupations and the support for every dictator. We are disengaging completely from the Middle East and the entire war on terror. And if there's going to be a war on terror at all, I'm going to let you run it. But the best you got is Interpol and maybe the CIA a little bit. But you don't get to have a war on terror, because I think that any war on terror, and I know you don't agree with this, we've talked about it before, but I think that any war on terror is just more on that list of 6 reasons that's going to make this thing a permanent clash of civilizations like the neocons want, and I will not tolerate it. So, can we just do that? Can we minimize this thing down to serious and effective and meaningful police work? Find someone, some bounty hunter somewhere to cut Zawahiri's throat and end this stupid war forever, or what?
No, I would resign immediately and go public with that. I think we've tried that, Scott. I think Clinton tried it for 7 or 8 years. He was very assiduous in using Interpol and police forces, and none of it worked. The only thing that's going to work is a direct debate and alteration in our foreign policy.
Well, I gave you that, though. I gave you the complete withdrawal and the end of the list of the 6 reasons from before, and even the few that George Bush and Obama have added on top of those. Those reasons are all gone now, so we've uninflamed the Muslim world as much as we can at this point, in my fantasy here.
Well, I'm afraid that I don't see how that could happen. If that could happen, then you might be able to get away with police efforts, some CIA efforts, and some special forces efforts. I would say yes. But, my God, you know, Scott, until we do anything about oil, none of this can stop. If you want to really focus on the key to this whole problem with terrorism, it's energy. And until we do something about that, we're going to keep exactly the same position we are no matter who's president.
Well, and you know, what really frustrates me about that, and maybe I'm wrong about this, my estimation of it, Lord knows I'm no CIA analyst from way back, but it seems to me like what that's really about is our state's control of those resources to keep Russia and China from being a near-peer competitor. It's not about our ability to buy gasoline at the pump, because it's going to be for sale even if the Chinese are the dominant force in the region.
Well, what I would say is the Russians don't need it. They have enough of their own.
Right, but it's all strategery. It's not just about Houston making dollars, which of course is part of it, but it's about our state checking the power of these other states in this global game of empire that I don't want to play. I don't care who controls the Caucasus at all. I don't care at all.
Well, I think that's, and neither do I. But I think the reality is that
I still want oil from there, but I think I can get it anyway. That's my point.
Oh, I think you can get it anyway. I agree with that. You can get some oil from the Middle East without supporting the Saudis and the Kuwaitis and the Emiratis. But the Congress is owned, Scott. you know, we have to start doing something for ourselves here. We've got to do offshore drilling. We've got to do nuclear energy. We've got to do all of it. And the sooner the better, because I don't want to keep paying for oil with the life of Marines.
Yeah, well said. And good place to leave it. All right, well, thanks very much, Mike. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Scott. Take care of yourself.
All right, everybody, that's Michael Scheuer. He is the author of Imperial Hubris, Why the West is Losing the War on Terrorism and Marching Toward Hell. You can find him at antiwar.com and at thediplomat.com.